स्वीट शॉप हाँ अब तुमने मिस कर दिए बाद में निकल के फिर निकल जाओ ये नहीं खुलेगी
Okay, no problem. Everything I understand.
इस्लामिक स्कॉलर इसके सारे लेक्चर्स यूट्यूब पे होते हैं
अच्छा Assalamu alaikum everybody. You're making me really laugh. Alhamdulillah, it's really good here that we've got the whole family together, everybody, mashallah. And you know, whenever we have a gathering, it's very important to do something Islamic. As they say, in that gathering, shaitan is there. So it's very, very good that although we've got this dinner and we can show off all our clothes and all the rest, we've got something Islamic as well. And that's very recommended in Islam, to do something Islamic with any occasion, any good occasion. So basically my talk today is a little bit, it's only a short talk on marriage. The only aspect I'm going to look at is all the cultural problems that are happening within our societies. And all those cultural problems, believe it or not, were dealt with before, just as Islam came to get rid of all those problems for a reason. So before Islam came, there was lots and lots of bad things happening. So even though the previous religions had come, Christianity had come, Judaism had come, still people were not listening and women were being really badly used for marriage. In fact, the first thing is that women were not even being married to, women were being used for relationships. Okay, so women were being used for relationships and as sexual slaves, which is really, really bad. Nobody was bothering to marry them because it cost too much money. Also, women were traded and married off as part of business deals. So people would say, we're only marrying your daughter if you give us 100 camels. That's what was happening in Arabia. Already mentioned, prostitution was really out there as well. And big dowries were taken from brides' families, 100 camels at a time, then you can have a daughter. It was a big business. Big businesses were going on just to marry the poor girls off. And forced marriages were happening within tribal castes. So this was again to do with a little bit like Hinduism. The higher the caste is, say there's a Brahma caste, they say we're only going to marry our daughter in a Brahma caste to keep the money in the family. It's all to do with keeping the money in the family, the land in the family. Landowners will only marry within women who are landowners. So it was all about money, and this is how forced arranged marriages came about, where you were forced to marry within those families. It didn't matter what the girl said. Okay, so once Prophet Muhammad ﷺ came, then things changed, and he introduced so many things which elevated women's status. It made them higher, more respected, and women were given many, many Islamic rights to stop them being used. Okay? So these are some of the things that we are going to discuss today. What did he put in place to stop women being used? The very first thing is that marriage was very, very highly recommended. So Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, praise be to Allah who made marriage a noble tradition in Islam and a barrier between halal and haram. So normally within Islam, we are recommended to get married. So you are not allowed to have any outside relationships with women or men unless it is within marriage. So that is something which came about in the Quran. Did you know that the religion before, they were practicing celibacy? Who knows what celibacy is? Anybody? In Christianity, celibacy was being practiced.
When you don't have a relationship.
No? What is celibacy?
No interrupted marriage.
When they don't even get married. If you look at the Christian monks and the Christian priests, the Catholic priests, they still don't get married. They viewed women as dirty. They thought if they marry a woman, it would dirty their religion, their relationship with Allah. So that is what was happening. The monks and the priests were not getting married at all. Even nuns, they don't get married, do they? Even now, Catholic nuns don't get married. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to elevate women's status, to stop them being used, He said everybody must try and get married. And if you can't get married, what did He tell us that we must try and do? To the men especially. Fast. Because when you fast, you refrain from doing anything bad. Okay? The other thing that Prophet Muhammad introduced was to stop forced marriages. Does anybody know what he did? To stop forced arranged marriages happening. What did he introduce? Who do we ask first, the boy or the girl? The girl, how many times?
3 times.
3 times the girl is asked first, do you want to marry so-and-so? Do you want to marry so-and-so? Do you want to marry so-and-so? If they say no on any of those times, it's go home everyone. It's a Bollywood special, isn't it? Bollywood film special. So basically, Prophet Muhammad said that you are not allowed to force your child to marry somebody that they don't want to. In fact, it is actually a great sin. And somebody did come up to Prophet Muhammad Khansa bin Khidam. Her father gave her in marriage when she was a matron, and she disliked that marriage. She went to Prophet Muhammad and he declared that marriage invalid. That is according to Sahih Bukhari. So that is what happened. And it also tells you there in the Quran, O you who have believed, it is not lawful for you to inherit women by compulsion. That is actually mentioned in the Quran in Surah Nisa, which is a whole surah named after women to make them higher. You know all this stuff that women are oppressed in Islam? It's a load of rubbish. Women are not oppressed. I actually think the men are oppressed, really. The women are really strong. They always get their own way. They're the rulers of the house. I honestly actually feel the men are oppressed from what I see in the community. Women are not oppressed at all. Women are very chalak and hushar and they keep the men under their thumbs, don't we? We like to keep the men under our thumbs. So this is really, Islam got rid of oppression of all women. Okay? A girl cannot marry without her free consent. A forced marriage is not accepted in Islam. And all of this happened even in England in the olden days. Did you know that landowners or aristocratic families forced their girls to marry into aristocratic families? If you think of the royal family, it's only very recently the times have changed. I don't know if anybody knows the story of the Queen's uncle. He wanted to marry a divorced lady. She was American, and they took his lineage away, his kingship away, and then gave the kingship to the king's father. So it did happen in this country. It's only recently that things have changed here as well. When a girl is asked 3 times, who is not allowed to ask her? The dad is not allowed to ask her. Did you know? When a woman gets married, the dad is not allowed to ask her. Do you know why that is? Why is her dad and somebody else has to ask her?
Maybe he's forcing.
He might be forcing her. He might have a gun behind her back saying, marry him, and she's scared. So did you know there's usually somebody else who asks her 3 times? And then after she's answered, then they ask her their husband. Okay, the other thing is, you know, before Islam came, that is the Jahez system was going on. It's all from Hinduism. The dowry system, you know, where thousands and thousands of pounds the girl's side have to give to marry the girl off. This is not Islam. In Islam, for the first time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told men they have to give meher money. And women can specify however much they want. They can say, give me £10,000 they can write it down in the nikah nama. Okay? So it actually is mentioned again in Surah Nisa, where it is the man who has to give the money in order to marry. The girl doesn't have to give a penny. This is called meher money, and it is very, very important in Islam. This jahez stuff all comes from Hinduism. Hindu culture has mixed with Pakistani culture and Bangladeshi culture, but it's not in Islam at all. So Muslim women have a right to a marriage gift. The groom gives a gift to the bride, and the concept of the groom giving to the bride stops him from using her, which was happening before Islam came. Okay? And huge amounts of money was given by the bride to marry the bride off, whereas nowadays it's not supposed to be like that at all. Okay? The other right of women to stop them being used is a special nikah nama, which is a written document that two Muslim partners entering into a civil union must put their signature on in order to legalize their marriage. And this is actually according to Sharia law. A lot of Muslims don't know about this. Muslim women have the right to write whatever they like in that nikah nama. If they don't want their husband to marry again, they can write it in there. If they want a certain allowance every month from their husbands, they can write it in the nikah nama. This is all there as a reason to stop women being used, because some women are still being used for their money, and as soon as they get married, they're still being used for their money. Did you know that in Islam, the other way of women stop being used is that when they earn money, they don't have to give any of their money to the husband. They can keep all their own money, and the husband still has to provide them with food, shelter and clothing. It is actually their right to manage the household. It is their fard to look after the household. Women can earn as much as they like, and they're not allowed to give they don't need to give any of their money to their husband. And did you know they can also ask for their pre-Islamic standard of living? So did you know, say they came from a rich household, they had a big television, a big house. If the husband has the money, they can ask for those rights. They can say, when I was in my mum's house, I had a big telly, I had a big house, then they have to provide it. This is another right under Sharia law, which is given to Muslim women, to stop them being used. Okay? The other one to stop women being used is that the nikah ceremony has to be with the least expense. And that is very, very important. This is why the nikah is supposed to be as simple as possible. Did you know all you need really is 2 witnesses? That's all you need. And Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu nikah was very, very simple. There's a reason for this, because who is paying for the nikah ceremony? Who is paying, the girl or the boy? The girl. And to stop the girl being used, the nikah is as simple as possible. Nowadays, relatives start talking, they're wagging their tongues, she's trying to save money. She's not trying to save money, she's going by the sunnah of what the religion says. Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was the perfect person, and he is the one who actually told us about this. So again, this is stopping girls being used. And when nikah becomes expensive, zina becomes cheap. So keep weddings as simple and affordable as possible. Sometimes people are waiting, they haven't got the money, they need to wait, and then we'll marry them once they've got the money. But if you keep waiting, it's going to lead to zina, isn't it? Especially when it's a love marriage and you love each other, you want to get married quickly. The boy might not be working and may not have enough money, then what is it going to lead to? Zina, isn't it? Which is, astaghfirullah, one of the biggest sins in Islam, zina is, and it does lead to that. In the end, it will lead to zina. So better to get them married quickly and have a cheap wedding. That is the best way. There's also journals to prove that big weddings equal to short marriages. Did you know this is the latest journal from America? The bigger the wedding, the more money is spent on it, the shorter the marriage and the more the divorce rate. Does anybody know why that is? Because you're getting married for worldly things. You're getting married for money items, not for religious. Religion is very, very important. In fact, one of the criteria before you get married is to look for the religion. You can look for money, you can look for beauty, you can look for the status of the family. But what did Prophet Muhammad ﷺ say? He said that go for religion and then that is the best route. Otherwise you will be doomed, he said, didn't he? So by doing a marriage which has less money in it, you're doing it for purely religious reasons. What that means is that you're not doing it for worldly reasons and the marriage will be more stronger. Like a marriage is more stronger when the husband you choose is into his deen. Okay? The other thing which is there to stop women being used is when they get married, they do not need to change their surname. In fact, it is preferred they keep their own surname. You know Khadija radiallahu anha, who was Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's wife, even though she was married to him, she still didn't change her surname. She could have added the Prophet's name at the end of her name if she wanted to get the high status. She kept her own family name. Does anybody know why that is? Why are we in Islam supposed to keep our own father's surname?
So we have our own identity?
Yes, we have our own identity and we are the lineage of our father. We may enter into marriage into another family, but we don't belong to their family. We're not part of their family. This is how, within Hinduism, for example, once you marry, you just stay there. You're not even allowed to go back. If you look at Indian films, we all watch Indian films, you know, they say, Pani bhi peena haram hai maa baap ka. They say that in the films, don't they? Which means you don't even go back again and even eat and drink from their houses. Yes? But in Islam, this is why you keep your own dad's surname, which is the reason you are their family. Yes? You keep your own family status. So this is very important. Something this is actually changing nowadays. If your surname is already of your husband's, obviously it's too late because if you change your surname now, people might think you've become divorced. But you can do it in subtle ways. I don't know if you know, my YouTube channel has got Qadir in the middle. Because I felt, when I first went on YouTube and all my videos started going all over the world, I thought the Naeem family's getting all the credit. And I wanted my dad to get the credit. I'm my dad's daughter. So I put Qadir in the middle of my two names. So if you've got Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, you can still put Qadir in the middle. You don't have to change your marriage certificate. Your dad's name, because you are from your dad's family. And this was introduced by Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to stop women being used. They go into the family and that's the end of them. You don't see them again. So whoever calls himself by other than his father's name will be cursed by Allah. And that is in Ibn Majah, Sahih al-Albani. He also said, whoever knowingly claims to belong to anyone other than his father, paradise will be denied him. And that is actually in three strong hadiths.
This hadith is not
Ahmad, Bukhari and Muslim.
This hadith is not for like this reference.
Yes.
You know, this is for to call yourself by another name.
Yes, that's to do with adopted. It's to do with adopted, but it's the same kind of condition, did you know, for Muslim women as well. So, you know, like we are not, when we are adopted, we're not allowed to change our surname because we belong to our father's lineage. It's the same for a woman when she marries outside. She's supposed to keep her family lineage for the same reasons. Okay, that's why it's quoted.
I've heard that this is for the adoption.
It is for adoption, but if you think about it, it's the same principle, isn't it? You're going into another family, you're being adopted by another father, but you're not allowed to take that father's surname. You still have to keep your own father's surname to keep it within the family. So you are right, it is to do with that, but it's the same principle of keeping your surname. Okay? We'll have questions at the end. There's going to be lots of questions, I know, after this. So we'll keep questions at the end. You know, at the end, when after the nikah, the ladies start crying, okay? This is again Hindu culture. Because in Hindu culture, you know why the girl is crying? She's going to her in-laws and she's never going to come back again and never going to eat and drink again. In fact, I have been to a recent wedding where they get rice and they throw it behind themselves. You might have seen that in Indian films. Why they do that is that's their dad's rice they've eaten. Everything they've eaten, they're throwing it behind them now. And they are going forward now into their in-laws' house. So they will, now they can't eat again from their father's house. It's all behind them. This is again against Islam because we are allowed to go to our mother's houses, we are allowed to eat from their houses. It tells you that in the Quran, okay? There's no restriction if you eat from your houses or the houses of your fathers or the houses of your mothers. This was happening before Islam came. That is in Surah Nur, chapter 24, verse 61, and the Arabic is written there as well. Okay, and then Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam did have a walima for all his weddings. Okay, that's another lecture, is all the weddings he had with all the different wives. There was always a reason why he married them, and it wasn't because of their beauty and the rest. It was always because they were widows and he had to protect them and things. That's another video on my YouTube channel you can look for. But walima again was kept simple. His walima was actually done in Khadija radhiyallahu anha's house because he didn't have the money. Okay? Now if she didn't have the money either, then it would have been very different. So in this circumstance she gave the money for the walima, but usually the boy does the walima out of his own pocket. Okay? So if he is not earning, then he does not have to do a big walima. He can do a small walima in the house like this is, okay, or in a restaurant. It's absolutely fine because it is not really there. It's there for Islamic reasons to complete the sunnah of the Prophet. Okay, it's a bit more grander than the nikah. Usually nikah is done just in the mosque. But walima is a bit more grander, but it doesn't have to be really, really grand, according to the sunnah of the Prophet. We have got the walima of the Prophet documented when he had his walima with Khadija. It was done in her house. The uncles Hamza, Abbas, Abu Talib, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, Varaka, which was Khadija's cousin, and their wives and other ladies were all present. There was a speech, so Abu Talib praised Allah for placing him and his family among the descendants of Ibrahim alayhi salam, and praised his nephew Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Varaka, who was the person from Khadija radhiyallahu anha's side, he also gave a khutbah. He acknowledged the merit and nobility of the Prophet and his family and announced them husband and wife. A meher money was huge. It was actually 20 camels was given, or 500 dirhams of that time. And the feast was, a camel was slaughtered for the guests and distributed for the needy in society. And the foster mother of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, she attended the wedding, and the newlyweds were given, the newlyweds gave her 40 goats to support and feed her clan. So giving presents is a really good thing, and something I really liked which Sylvia did was she gave everybody presents, alhamdulillah, and that is again a sunnah to follow. I got a shawl as well. I was so happy I bought it today. So it's a really good thing to do. She actually did follow the sunnah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which makes me really, really happy. And there has to be one person in the family that starts that sunnah, and then you watch, everybody will follow, and you will get the sadaqah jariyah. Because you started this trend, everybody else who now copies you, you will get that sadaqah jariyah right to the Day of Judgment. And it is so nice, and it's very, very hard, very difficult to do that in our Lahori community, where everything is about money and clothes and grandeur and showing off. especially back home in Pakistan. To do that in a Kafir country like England is a very big step forward, a very, very big step forward. So we should always follow the sunnah of the Prophet. If we don't follow the sunnah of the Prophet, we are going the opposite direction, which is bid'ah. Okay? And bid'ah is basically, you're basically saying to Allah, you don't know, so let me add a little bit of my own. So for example, bid'ah is something like mehndi, which is again from Hindu culture. Mayo is also from Hindu culture. It's all a copy of Hindu culture. Whereas we didn't do that here, did we, either? So sunnah is the opposite of bid'ah. And did you know that the punishment of bid'ah, it's a shortcut to Jahannam basically. Whereas the sunnah is a long, hard road which leads you to paradise. And the Prophet Muhammad said, I urge you to follow my sunnah and the way of the rightly guided Khalifas after me. Adhere to it and cling to it firmly. Beware of newly invented things. Newly invented things are innovations, which is bid'ah. For every newly invented thing is an innovation, and every innovation is a going astray. That's Ahmed and Tirmidhi. And whenever we do weddings, we must always try and follow the Quran and Sunnah as much as possible, because that is what will bring blessings to the wedding and happiness as well. Okay? And regardless of what people think, say or think about you, just remember that the only person you have to please is Allah. He's the only one you have to answer to on the Day of Judgment. You are liable for your own deeds, nobody else's. Okay? Allah's not going to say, you know, ask Auntie whatever who said, why did you have a cheap wedding? They'll ask you, why wasn't you strong and why didn't you follow the Sunnah? So even if the whole of Pakistan is going that way, and that's Serbia going that way, wrong is wrong even if everyone is doing it, right is right even if no one is doing it. So be with the truth even if you're on your own, okay? So that actually is a very short lecture, so we'll have questions now. Are there any questions? I like questions, so come on. Who's going to dare say anything now? And we still had a laugh, didn't we? We had a brilliant dinner, and we all got together, and we're all happy. So much barakah that way, isn't there? Any questions?
Very good, Zahir. Thank you very much.
Well done, Zahir, for sticking also to the Sunnah. Because it's you also that gets the barakah, because everybody listened to you what you wanted. And you did the right way, which is a very, very good thing. Are there no questions? I normally get so many questions.
बड़ा कर लेते हैं ये करने का तो नहीं मेरे पास इतने पैसे हैं मैंने इतना ही वलीमा करना है
It's a good thing. And you know, for a young boy to say that.
I have more money than I want a big walima than what background.
You know what? Everybody has their own circumstances.
Yeah.
If you have more money, then go.
And it's in your intention, isn't it? It's your intention as well, your niyyah. Allah looks at your niyyah. What is your intention? Some people want to do the khushi of their own son, you know.
You can do ikram and niyat feeding your
Yes, it's all in your intention. If your intention is to feed your relatives, that's a good thing as well.
That's the one I want to say that as well. You know, बात ये है कि आप हरकत को बचाएं, डांस ना हो, म्यूजिक ना हो, ये सब चीजें, लेकिन अगर आप अपने relatives को एक तरह से बुला के खाना अगर खिलाना चाहते हैं, तो that is not something included in harafat or something ज़्यादती. You are allowed for that. आपकी अपनी हैसियत है.
It's all in the intention, yes. As long as everything is done within limits, like she did, she segregated the men from the ladies.
Yes, right.
In that way, you know, and we all dressed up and everything. Everything went really, really well, alhamdulillah. So much barakah in the food as well. You know, and you even made the curries yourself. That is actually a very good thing. There's barakah in making your own food. Yes.
लड़की के ऊपर तो बोझ ना डले ये भी तो है लड़की वालों के ऊपर वो अपनी
Nikah is supposed to be as simple as possible. And walima, as you saw, the Prophet's walima was quite grand, wasn't it? But still within limits. Still within limits. You don't have to over the board. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah doesn't like waste, does He? He doesn't like waste. So one day is a pleasure for everyone, and then it's just all the same after that, isn't it? So, We all had big weddings. I had a big wedding. I remember my wedding was really grand. But we didn't know all these things then. But once you know, then Allah will ask you, because then you know, don't you?
Yeah.
So then Allah will ask you once you know. So once we know, then we have to be careful.
And it's not, it's not only about knowing it, you become responsible to convey your message
Yes.
to others as well. So that is
Which is what we're doing.
So that's why it is important to get it right
Yes,
as well.
yes.
So the thing is that if like Ashibati just said that if you can do a bake, you can feed more people. There is no harm feeding more people.
Yes.
But please don't do any the music and dances and things like that, which are included in all the israf or
Yes,
things like that.
of course. Everything
So-
has to be done in a halal
Yeah,
way.
yeah.
And then inshallah
Still
Allah
you
will
can-
bless the marriage that way. Okay? That's it then, yes? Okay then, we'll stop the video then. There wasn't that many questions. I thought there'd be more questions. I normally get loads of questions.